Hello and welcome back to Mad's World. So I apologize for not having a video last week. You know, life got in the way. I'm trying to be an entrepreneur and do my best, but I'm back. Today we're gonna do something very exciting. We're gonna go through one of my favorite topics of all the topics, romance novels. Now let's do a history lesson on how I came to be pigeonholed into romance novel TikTok. Around last year, I was listening to the NPR Pop Culture Happy Hour, which I love. It's a great podcast if you ever want to educate yourself but also love pop culture. Perfect. They do this book roundups and one of the hosts recommended The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. And this host, I apologize, I don't remember her name. She's very sophisticated, very intellectual. So I thought, okay, let me see what this is about. And it was a full-blown romance novel, pornographic situation. And I loved it. I loved and ate up every bit of it. You probably have read it too. Fabulous book. So I went onto TikTok, as one does, and I said, if you're looking for an alternative to porn, I would highly recommend reading The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. Went completely viral, okay? I probably single-handedly increased her sales by 100% within that month of that TikTok. I'm just saying. So since then, I obviously, you know, when TikTok delivers, you listen, okay, and you lean in. So then I read far too many romance novels and reviewed them on TikTok. And to this day, it's the only type of video and content on my personal TikTok that goes any sort of viral, goes any sort of anywhere, okay? Is put in front of any type of eyeballs. With that, I have become kind of a romance novel connoisseur. I even started a book club series on OK Sis podcast, which is my podcast I host with my sister, Scout. We've been exclusively doing romance novels, and I've had the pleasure of talking to authors such as Sally Thorne, Christina Lauren, Emily Henry. September, I'm gonna be speaking with Helen Huang about her new book, The Heart Principle, and then I'll be speaking to Jasmine Guillory in October. I'm getting all the gals, all the romance novel OGs. If you're a little scared of romance novels, and look, I was that way a year ago. I was a pretentious asshole that would only read like literary fiction and highbrow type of books. Romance novels are not what you think. There's this strange stigma that it's, you know, not as intellectually stimulating as other books, or that it is lesser than, but I'm here to tell you that the romance novel game and genre has evolved, and it is just charming, it is witty, it is sharp, it is sexy, it has all the things. You just feel so fucking good after reading a romance novel. I'm just gonna say it. And if you haven't, I highly recommend that you try. And we're gonna go through some of my favorites today. So you'll have a ton to pick from. So today I'm going to be going through the books in order of steaminess, okay? I'm going to be highlighting 9 books that I really loved and that were very steamy. I'm gonna tell you the ones that I would recommend if you're a romance novel newbie, if you're literally just looking for porn, there's that too. Let's begin. Also, I read a lot of these books a long time ago, so I'm really just kind of going with my gut here of what I remember the steaminess as. Some are very ingrained in my brain, and then sometimes some of them I kind of forgot a little bit, so just take the scale as you will, okay? At the bottom of the list, we have The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. Now, look, I know I said that it was pornographic. It was my first romance novel I ever read, so I had nothing to compare it to. If you don't know about The Hating Game, it's a workplace enemies to lovers classic story. It obviously has a lot of tension built up, but from what I can remember, there's only 2 sex scenes that are at the end, and look, they're phenomenal. There's only really 2 at the end. So I put the steaminess as 2 out of 5. It's a great way to dip your toes into this genre. I would highly recommend. Next, we have Jasmine Guillory Party of 2. Now, romance novel enthusiasts are going to cancel me because I didn't know that you're supposed to read the Jasmine Guillory books in this specific order. They're not necessarily like sequels of one another, but they do take one character from each and then make the book about that character. So I've been reading them out of order. I'm sorry. I've read The Proposal and Party of 2, and I'm gonna be reading her newest one when we talk on OK Sis, which I'm So excited about. Party of Two is about Olivia, who is a lawyer, and Max, who is a senator. So it is very much Scandal vibes. Very sexy, you know, a story about Olivia, who does not want to get into a relationship. She literally just started her law firm, and obviously Max enters into her life. So I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 5 steaminess rating. There are plenty of sex scenes. I just, you know, that's just my rating. 2 out of 5. Okay, here we go. Beach Read by Emily Henry. This is the book I recommend to every single person on this planet. Emily Henry's voice and character development and tone and writing style is just chef's kiss. This emoji. I had the privilege of talking to Emily Henry, and she is equally as delightful over the Zoom. And she is just so spunky and adorable. If you don't know the premise about Beach Read, it follows January, who is a romance novelist, so it's kind of meta in that way, and she has no more faith in love, and then she, you know, goes to write her next book, and she hides herself away in this little cabin. She ends up staying next door to a literary fiction writer who, you know, kills everyone off in his books and is very like serious, brooding type of writer. And so they challenge themselves to switch genres and write a book at the end. So, and then obviously they fall in love. Now, I put the steaminess at 3 out of 5. From what I can remember, there's only a couple of sex scenes at the end, but the buildup and the tension, something about these two characters and the way they fall in love, and just the overall beauty of this book and its commentary on the genre itself. Read it if you haven't. Okay, next we have The X Talk by Rachel Solomon. Now, Rachel Solomon was on the podcast as well. We discussed The X Talk. It's about a Jewish podcaster who ends up having to create a podcast with her work enemy. So again, workplace enemies to lovers, but super witty and adorable. I mean, a lot of obviously commentary on podcasting as a medium, which I really relate to. I also relate to the Jewishness of it all. And there is a very good sex scene at the end. It is steamy. If you've read it, you know. I'm not gonna spoil it. 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5 steaminess. All right, next we have How to Fail at Flirting. So the title of this book doesn't make much sense because they end up being really good at flirting and like automatically fall in love. So I don't know where she failed, but that's that. It's about a woman named Naya who's trying to save her job as a professor, and she meets Jake, and there's a little bit of a complication in there. She has to kind of decide between her profession and Jake, and sexy, real sexy. 3 out of 5 steaminess. Good one. All right, no romance novel list is complete without It Ends With Us, Colleen Hoover. I read it before it erupted on Book Talk. It's kind of having this renaissance. Now, there needs to be a trigger warning for this book. There is abuse, domestic abuse in the book. It's very, very tragic, but it is sexy as fuck, okay? It is just, yeah, one of the sexier ones on this list. This is actually the only Colleen Hoover book I've read. I know, don't, I'm a fraud, I know. I've heard incredible things about Verity. I hear that that's much more sexier, so maybe that should be on this list instead, but I need to read Verity. So for now, my frame of reference is It Ends With Us. 4 out of 5 steaminess. 4 out of 5 steaminess. If you want to be part of the, you know, book talk narrative, read it. Okay. Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino. This is a love story about a Craigslist misconnection post that gives two people the chance to fall in love 15 years later. So we kind of go back into this coming of age romance. We see them at college when they first met and obviously like lose their virginity to one another. It reminds me a lot of Normal People where they're having like a ton of sex in college, and I'm like, this is not how sex is when you're that age, but maybe they're different and more mature. Regardless, incredibly sexy, just a deep love story. The ending has an insane twist that I did not see coming. I think I read this in one sitting, which I am the slowest reader that there is, okay? Find a slower reader. I am so slow. I read it in one day. That is unheard of for me, okay? So that's any indication. Before We Were Strangers, I'm giving it a 4 out of 5 steaminess because we see the sexual partnership evolve over 15 years or over like a, you know, long period of time. So it's a good one. Okay. Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey Mckisten. This book took me by surprise. I really was turned off by the cover. I don't know, I just thought it was gonna be cheesy. Casey Mckisten is one of the most prolific writers and one of the funniest writers I have ever read. This book is about the son of the president of the United States was dating the Prince of England secretly and having this like lavish secret affair. It's very luxurious, very glamorous. Again, enemies to lovers and tons of gay sex. So I'm giving it a 5 out of 5, okay? I had to like hold myself back a little from this book. It was so good. Steaminess 5 out of 5, 5 out of 5, our first 5 out of 5. I'm gonna say it again, the steaminess is 5 out of 5. And our last one, our steamiest book that I have read. Again, all of these books, like I'm sure there are steamier ones in the world. I'm talking about contemporary romance novels. I'm not talking about like straight erotica, right? I'm talking about contemporary romance novels. In the books that I have read, The Roommate by Rosie Dannon, it follows Clara, who comes from this elite family on the East Coast. She moves to LA. She thinks that she's rooming with one of her best friends that she's in love with, but she actually ends up rooming with someone else, random, who ends up being a porn star. Okay, so things get wild. I mean, there's a ton of sex. There's also a lot of understanding of pleasure and solo pleasure versus partnership pleasure. What I loved though about this book was that they start a business that focuses solely on female pleasure, which is super empowering. It has a great story. Basically, they're trying to revolutionize the porn industry through it while having a lot of sex. It is steamy, okay? 5 out of 5. That's my list. That's the list of my top romance novels that have a little steam, a little kick to them. You know what I mean? I am just delighted by romance novels. I cannot get enough. Obviously, comment all of your recommendations in the comments because I need more. I get tons of them on TikTok as well, but would love any and all recommendations now that you know my style, now that you know what I like. Something I didn't mention in the beginning that I want to make clear is romance novels are all about the woman in charge of her sexuality. There is always consent in every one of these books. It feels extremely empowering as a woman to read these. So if you're looking for a little more empowerment in that area and ownership, pick up a romance novel. Pick it up. Can't hurt. Honestly, cannot hurt. All right, I need to drink some tea because that was a lot of talking for me. Before we wrap, a couple things. Number one, if you like romance novels and if you've gotten to this point, I'm pretty sure you do, go follow me on TikTok. I like to say that I'm a book influencer, that I'm like part of Book Talk. I'm contributing to the Book Talk narrative. So follow me there for more reviews. Number two, OK Sis has been doing a book club series. At the end of every single month, the last Thursday of the month, I release an episode with an author of the book that we choose at the beginning of the month. So for instance, it's the beginning of September. We announced that the Helen Huang, The Heart Principle, is going to be the September book. And then the episode with Helen will be released at the end of September. So you have the whole month to read the book and then join our Geneva Community Center because we have a whole section for books, book recs, book club, book discussion. If you're a bibliophile, you'll love that. So be sure to join that also in the description. All right, I'm done. And now I'm gonna go read another romance novel. I have about 50 on my nightstand. I hope you enjoyed this type of vlog, the more, talking vlog. I love you and keep going.